Jackson Garden-Bachop, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Mate, it's great to have you here. First of all, for anyone that's not that familiar with rugby, your position is number 10. What does number 10 mean?
Number 10, well, it literally means first five. That's where, we do lots of passing, lots of kicking, lots of organising, lots of talking, and not often a lot of tackling. So, yeah, it's a good spot to be in. It's a good spot to be in.
Yeah, and some other number 10s that people might be familiar with would be like Dan Carter, going way back, Grant Fox, Bowden Barrett.
Yeah.
Oh, you took Bodie's job at the Hurricanes.
Oh, I tried to. Wasn't overly successful there, but yeah, he was sort of who I was under for the first couple of years that I was at the Hurricanes, and learnt a lot off, and then he made the move up here. So yeah, there was a spot there that I held down for a couple of years. That was cool.
Big boots to fill.
Yes.
Yeah, how was that on X or Twitter?
Oh, not great, to be honest. I mean, especially the stage of his career that he was in. He was back-to-back Player of the Year, I think, World Player of the Year at that stage. So I was never trying to be Bowden Barrett, but yeah, obviously there was a lot of people out there, especially the Hurricane supporters, that were used to the best player in the world being in that position, and that wasn't me instantly. So yeah, it got a bit rough at times online, but you just got to know who to care about, really, in terms of opinion.
I suppose it's a blessing and a curse of the sport, because the sport's so popular. You do have this sort of buy-in from people, but just savage.
Yeah, it is. In all sports over the world, it's a really bizarre thing that because obviously it's entertainment and people support you and they want you to do well. There's this sort of, and obviously with the access now on social media, there's this sort of, right that people think they have to talk shit about other people. And yeah, it gets ruthless. I'm only small fry, so I only copped a little bit, but I know some of the big dogs who have millions of followers, when they have a bad game, it can be, message requests can be pretty full. Yeah.
Now you're from like a rugby dynasty, like just a massive rugby background. So your dad and uncle were All Blacks. Your cousins, Aaron and Nathan Major, All Blacks. And your mum represented New Zealand in rugby, touch rugby, basketball and hockey. You never had a chance, did you? Like, you were never going to get a desk job. Like, you were destined for this.
Yeah, whether it was going to be rugby or just anything physical, I think, and not just them, they were the ones that went to the highest honours, but our whole family is all sporty, active. So that's all, as kids, we really wanted to be. Just like mum and dad, I guess, when you're a kid.
I found this old book at home today from 19... Have you ever seen this book?
Yeah, now we've got one of those somewhere in a box somewhere.
Like I forget where I got it from. I think you bought them at like Caltex or something.
Yeah,
so this cool. Is the official 1998 Rugby Super 12 handbook. On the cover, your dad running just behind Tana Umuga, who coincidentally is your coach now.
Yeah, I was literally just thinking that. I haven't thought about that book in ages, but...
Yeah, it's crazy. And then there's, your dad's in here. It's incredible. And this is the team you went on to play for, the Hurricanes.
Yeah.
So what are your earliest memories of high-performance parents? So you were born in Dunedin.
Yeah.
And then spent your early years like basically being a kid of a rugby player. So you went to the UK where your dad was playing?
Yeah, so I was born in Dunedin. When I was 2. Dad got signed to the Hurricanes, so that's when we moved up there till I was 4. And then we went to the UK to where he finished his career, first with London Irish in London, and then the Leeds Tykes, they were called back then, in Leeds. And honestly, I was pretty young. I came back to New Zealand when I was 8, and I can't really remember anything of them being high performance. More than just he was a rugby player and it was awesome, and we got to go watch him at the stadium, and sometimes we got to go to training and see him work there. But it never at that time it didn't click for me that it was a job, and that he was a professional athlete. It was more just my dad's the man. He's a rugby player, and we get to follow him around everywhere doing it.
Mm. So what are you? So in the UK you played like a bit of soccer, football.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my main sport when I was over there, because obviously everyone likes to play football there. So even when I first moved back to New Zealand, I always had aspirations of playing soccer. But yeah, just socially, it wasn't as popular at primary school. So quickly enjoyed rugby more, just because all my friends were doing it.
Yeah, and how was that transition, like moving back to New Zealand as an 8-year-old and reintegrating back into Kiwi society?
Oh, I can't. Apart from being teased for my accent, I think it was pretty seamless. New Zealand's a really awesome place, and I'm noticing that now as a dad. It's very family centric, very kid centric. The way the schooling system's run is just very kids focused, making sure that the kids are happy and in a situation where they can thrive. So I think that's what I felt when I came back.
What do you mean teased for your accent? Did you have like a little English accent?
Oh yeah, full on.
Did you?
Full on. I had to train it. Me and my mum, my mum used to go home every day and just try and get rid of it as soon as possible. Yeah.
What do you mean?
I'm not going to try and imitate it now. But yeah, no, I started school over there. Obviously, I was at Leeds Grammar School for a couple of years. So yeah, full integrated and full on POM. Yeah, me, my brother, and my sister all had posh little accents. It was the home videos are so funny now, especially a little high pitched English accent compared to the way that I speak now.
So I'm sort of imagining you sounding like Prince William and Kate Middleton's kid.
Yeah, something like that.
So you had to come home and like try and sort of like unfuck yourself really.
Yeah. Because I get teased and then I'd be saying like, piss off, and then that's all that people would be saying to me. So I'm like, fuck. Get home, Mama, cop. No, not yet, cop. No, that's not it. It's still English.
Unreal. And I believe your mum. It's from what I've read about her. She's no longer with us, and we'll get to that part of your story. But she encouraged you guys to play every sport under the sun.
Yeah, they're simple as that. The best example I have is sort of my weekly schedule when I was junior. So Saturday I would play half a game of soccer. At halftime I'd get in the car and go to rugby, play that game. The next day, Sunday, I'd play rugby league. And then through the week, I'd have basketball for school, athletics one night a week. It really just encouraged us to get amongst as much as we could. And I don't know how she logistically took care of that because my kids have done one soccer training a week and trying to fit everything in is
It's a lot,
chaos, man, yeah.
It's a lot. What was the thinking behind that? Just so that you could, attach yourself to something that you love or find out what you're good at? Or?
I'm not sure. I never got to an age where I was sort of old enough and aware enough to be like, why are you doing this, Mum? But I never didn't enjoy any of it. And anything we didn't enjoy, Mum wouldn't have forced it on us. She was more just facilitating stuff for us to try. And the things that we loved, we sort of carried on with. Yeah.
So you've recently moved to Auckland because for the 2025 season, you were playing for Moana Pasifika in Super Rugby. It feels like this is another sort of one of those serendipitous sort of moments. So last year you played your 100th game for Wellington, which was the final, which you guys won. Incredible. The last person to do that was Tana in 2007, and you were actually at that game as a kid.
Yeah.
Like a 12, 13?
It would have been about that. I would have still been at primary school. But yeah, that was a pretty religious thing that we'd do after a Norths game in the morning. You get a few of the boys together and get some tickets and go in and watch the Lions. And I remember that game especially. That was a really special one. I remember they were giving him the 13th aisle in the stadium, giving him a big picture on that. Still waiting on that actually. And there, and no, me.
Oh yeah,
the number 10.
Oh.
And then just I remember him being carried off and everyone giving him a standing O, and just he was the man as well because he was the All Blacks captain and he led the haka, and we knew him, knew their family quite well. So I remember being there, and it's pretty crazy to think between that and myself that no one else was able to do it. It's pretty cool. I'm proud of it.
Yeah, 18 years gap between him doing it and you doing it, and now you're collabing again. He's your coach at Moana Pasifika, which is incredible.
Yeah.
So you debuted for Wellington in 2013 when you were 19. So were you just naturally good? Like at high school, you played in your first 15 for like 4 of your 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Which
seems... Yeah, 10 I made it.
So how old then?
I would have been 14 going on 15.
Yes, that's crazy because you're playing some big kids.
Yeah, I think it was a combination of, obviously, there's natural ability. I've been playing and being around rugby for a long time. Between year 9 and 10, I grew about a foot and put on about 15 kilos, so I was actually not too much smaller than everyone. And also, Scots College, where I went to school at the time, wasn't traditionally a strong rugby school, so yeah, the pool of talent wasn't great, so there was an opportunity there, and Yeah, nah. 4 of the best years of my life, to be honest. Those 15,
The,
first
old,
15
the
years.
older guys in your team that if they hear this, they'll be like, "Oh, that's a bit hurtful, mate. Come on, we were
Well,
a
no,
decent side."
I remember when I got there in year 9 and the first 15 had just lost the Division 2 semi-final. And the year 13s at the time were all saying, "Oh, man, this is because that's the best they've done in a long time." They're like, "Man, we're not going to see this for a while. Like, this is awesome. Like, let's enjoy it while it lasts." And then just by chance, sort of we got a good generation came through and we went up and up. But yeah, in terms of me making it in year 10, that definitely helped.
But were you good? Like, was there like a constant hum around you? Like, you're one to watch, or were there talent scouts coming to keep an eye on you and things like that?
I don't know about talent scouts, but I was pretty lucky. I was amongst all the sort of age grade stuff. Yeah, sort of from under 13s, under 14s, up to under 16s and 18s. I was always amongst the Wellington teams in that, or at least trialling for them and around that. Always a bit of attention just because of my last name, which gets your foot in the door. And then the times that I was able to play well, obviously it got me picked.
Yeah. I was thinking about that. It must be tough having a name like that, eh? Or like if you're a Lomu or an Umaga or whatever. Like it's a lot of added pressure.
Yeah, definitely, especially among peers when you're young. Like, kids are dumb, and that guy's only here because of his name, only here because of his dad. It's like, yeah, potentially some people would be that case, but you know, your last name might be a foot in the door, but you got to open the door and play well.
100%.
Otherwise, you get found out.
If you shit, they're not going to leave you there just because of your name, are they?
Exactly. If you're losing games because you're not good enough, like, it's about winning.
So what are your recollections of that debut for Wellington in 2013 when you're 19? Were you shitting yourself?
Yeah, I was shitting myself. Yeah, it's funny. That whole season, I played 12 minutes that year. Lima Sopawanga was the 10. Tim Bateman, a couple of old fellas, they were sort of covering that 10 position. So I only played 12 minutes and I only got into that game on the bench because someone got injured on the last day of training. And I was not a professional rugby player back then in the way that I viewed the game, sort of approached the game, approached my training and all of that. So, yeah, I was well out of my depth. The actual game itself was all a blur. All I remember is the first thing that got called, from not paying attention at training, I didn't know what it was. It was actually Artie and Matt Proctor, who were my mates. It was a move that they had to stand behind me, which is a bizarre position. Well, I thought it was a bizarre spot for them to be in. So I was looking behind me going, what's going on here? And yeah, rest is history, but I could have definitely been more prepared.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the term imposter syndrome?
Yeah, vaguely.
Yeah, it sort of means where you're in an environment and you're like, fuck, I'm out of my depth here. I'm going to be caught out. And a lot of it is like completely irrational. But a lot of it, I'm guessing if you're 19 in an environment like that with a lot of experienced players, you'd probably be right to sort of feel that way.
I don't know of imposter syndrome, but definitely naive to the fact that even though I was young and there were these All Blacks and Hurricanes and Super Rugby players in front of me, I was naive to the fact that if I got called on and I was going to play, I had to be at the level that they were at to make sure that the team succeeded. I probably just thought that it wasn't my time yet, so I can just cruise, and then in a couple of years when it is my go, I'll start taking it seriously. So, yeah, I never felt like I shouldn't be there, but I was definitely naive.
And what did your dad text you after that game? Because I heard in another podcast you've done that when you play well, your dad sends you like a lengthy sort of text, like a paragraph.
Yeah.
And when you play badly, he just sends you like a couple of work-ons.
Yeah.
Does he still do that?
Well, at the moment, it's been hard for him to catch games because I've been playing in France and then the first couple of preseason games. So he waits for the updates on how I went from me. But yeah, no, it's a lot of short and sharp stuff now. Like, I think you did well, or move on to the next type thing. But a really cool moment on that game was as we were walking off the field after I debuted. I just remember looking up at Westpac and he was just at the top of the aisle going like this, and that was pretty cool because I knew he was proud of me then.
That is real cool.
Yeah,
that means a lot. How close are you, or how close have you been to making the All Black squad?
Oh, I don't know if I've ever been terribly close. I definitely didn't play consistently enough at Super Rugby, or I haven't yet. So I plan on doing so now for a long enough period of time. But mathematically, if you think of there's been 5 New Zealand Super Rugby teams. 5 starting 10s, and normally the 3 10s in the All Blacks get picked from there. and for a couple of seasons I was one of the starting 10s for the Hurricanes. So no calls or anything like that though. But
well, whispers from the coach like, "Hey, this could be your year."
No.
Well, explain the difference to me. Is it because your position's a really tough one in terms of depth?
In terms of what, not making the All Blacks?
Yeah, in terms of like depth, like there's just always been like such good people at number 10. Like we talked about Bodie before and Dan before that, or Damien McKenzie.
I don't know, I'm not sure. There's probably been more around my ability to lock in for long periods of time. Because when I've been good and consistent, but it's taken me a long time to find my feet in terms of my professionalism and the way I hold myself and the way I sort of approach the game and the sport as a whole.
Why is that? You just want a more balanced life? I know you're deep into your family, and we'll get into that stuff later.
Yeah, so that's my balance now. But for a long time, my balance was partying and my mates. And it's funny that I said in the change room when I gave my speech after my 100th game, I met my wife just after my 50th or just before my 50th game, and I just talked about my purpose for my first 50 games compared to my second 50 games, and just how much more fulfilling my purpose is now in terms of playing to make my kids proud, playing to put food on the table for them, versus my first 50, I just wanted to play well. So I was in the team each week so I could get paid, so I could go to town and feel cool, where my Lions plays to the town and feel really cool. So, definitely a priority shift in there somewhere.
I think it's good that you can admit that and see that, because a lot of people wouldn't want to admit that, that it's been their own sort of, I don't know, their own, themselves getting in the way of themselves.
Yeah. Well, it's just something that comes with age.
Yeah.
And probably a lot of denial the whole way through that I was able to do both. But at some point, if I'd flicked the switch earlier, who knows what could have happened. But I had a lot of fun. I've met a lot of good people, a lot of good memories, which I wouldn't change. But yeah, a lot of bad habits created that have taken a long time and still taking a long time to sort of work through and come out the other side of.
Oh, like what? You want to talk about the bad habits or no?
I'm unsure. It's so interesting that you ask this now, because a lot of it has been accentuated after my brother passed away, and sort of I've been in and out of bad habits. Really struggled with addiction my whole sort of, what do you call them, teenage into young adult years, and haven't really discriminated on any of them around drugs, drinking, gambling, all the above. And sort of, I think a lot of that, especially in those young years of playing, was masked because I was doing that anyway socially. Everyone around me was sort of doing it. I'd always take it to the extreme, but isn't sort of, since I've had kids and I haven't been in situations where I should be doing it and I'm still doing some stuff, that it's really had to make me sit down and confront it and be like, this isn't normal. I've got to get on top of it.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. By the way, just so we're clear, like, this is a safe space here. So anything that you say that you want cut out before it goes out, we'll chop it out. So if anyone's listening to this and they're hearing this spiel from me now, you know that Jackson's good with everything being left in. It takes a lot to admit that stuff. And you have been through a lot of adversity. For how old are you now? 30. Yeah, you've been through a lot of adversity, and we'll get through that. Because I ask people on the podcast that question, like, what's their biggest adversity? Because no one gets to sort of, a bit older than you, like 40s or 50s, without going through some adversity. And you're 30, and you've been through a fuck ton. Like, it's pretty shit, actually.
Yeah, fuck, yeah. I wouldn't wish some of the experiences I've had on my worst enemy. It's been pretty brutal, and started being pretty brutal at a young age, and it's seemed to keep coming.
You okay talking?
Life is funny. Yeah,
okay?
We go.
Yeah.
If I say anything or we go over anything that I'm not comfortable with, I'll cut it out. But
yeah,
it is what it is.
Okay, because last year, 2024, should have like, on balance, it looks like an epic fucking year, right? You become a dad for the third time. You have your 100th game for Wellington. You win the is it still called NPC? What's the competition?
Yeah,
yeah. You're on fucking fire. You're playing rugby in France. You got your family. Is your family over there with you? Yeah. Everything's going good, and then your brother passes away at the age of 25, which that's how old he was, 25.
Yep, 25.
Yeah.
Yeah, a real blindside that, and all the things you mentioned there happened after he passed away. So it's just bizarre. I did another podcast recently, and I said, like, obviously I played my 100th game for Wellington. We won the championship, but I was not supposed to be there. Like, I did 4 months before that. Like, I was in France, and we'd just been in the off season. I'd just driven back from Spain the night before, and I had no thoughts of playing for Wellington at all, probably ever again, because I was doing the overseas thing. So yeah, that was pretty confronting on the week of that final, especially in my 100th game. Everyone saying congrats, do this for your brother. Your brother brought you home for this. And I was like, far out. Like, thanks, bro. Like, I'd rather you didn't. So it was a real bizarre. Trying to give myself permission to be happy in those moments where I was really feeling shit. The birth of my son, and which is one of the best, fourth equal best moment of my life, and at the same time there's this undertone of just shit. So yeah, it's bit of a mental fuck.
Yeah. This is like a serious moment of the podcast. But what are the 4 best moments for your life?
The 3 births of my kids and my wedding day.
Oh yeah. Oh really? Yeah. Really? None of the sporting stuff.
Oh, if you asked me, I'd have a list of
your top 10.
Of my best rugby moments or my best sporting moments. But in terms of what life's actually about, rugby's such a small part of it, and it'll be done in the next 5 or 6 years for me, probably, if I'm lucky. It'll go that long.
Yeah. Shit, you're winning at life if you can categorize these are my top 4 family moments and these are my top 4 rugby moments.
Yeah, pretty lucky in the sense that my job gives me the opportunity to do my dream and what I've always wanted to do. So that's always going to be peak, especially when things are going well. But yeah, in terms of the other 4 moments, that's a different kind of joy and love that you don't experience it unless you experience it.
Yeah. Okay, well, yeah, since we're at this part now, I reckon we'll get back to Connor, your brother, because that's fairly recent. It was June last year, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll start with your mum, the legendary Sue Garden-Bachop. Yeah. So your parents separated in 2006 when you were 12. Yeah. Yeah. What are your recollections of that? I mean, that's a big thing to go through as a kid as well.
Yeah, that was pretty hectic. I remember when they told us we're at McDonald's, they took us to McDonald's, and it seemed like a casual conversation. Just mum saying that dad's going to go and live with his friend for a while. And so my brother and sister were very young, so I don't think they clocked actually what that potentially meant. But I remember the car ride home. I went with my mum, my brother and sister went with my dad, and I was like, does this mean a divorce? I don't know how I knew that word, or obviously you're talking the playground about stuff. And she said, oh, I don't know, but potentially. And I was so gutted. I was angry. I was like, what the hell? This is bullshit. You don't understand what's going on between mum and dad, but all I could think was like, why would you? Like, this is bullshit. And yeah, I remember her saying there, it is bullshit. I wish this wasn't happening type thing. We were crying on the way home. And then, yeah, through the separation, it was pretty tense between mum and dad. Some traumatic experiences, I think, there for me that I haven't clocked until I was older that we went through. But yeah, pretty tough. It's tough for anyone that goes through that.
Yeah, so you were 12, your brother was 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, and your sister Georgia,
yeah, she would have been 10. 10. 2 years and 2 years apart.
Yeah, so you're in that sweet spot where you're old enough to sort of, I don't know, I suppose sense it a bit more or feel a bit more what's going on.
I think so. And even I can tell I was understanding more in the way that I can remember it, even in the way that we speak about how before Connor passed away, we'd speak about being able to remember mum. He's saying, like, Jackson, I can't remember much. Like, he would have been 8 years old. He's saying, like, I'm losing my memories, like, when through not talking about it, through just, I can't remember what I was doing when I was 7 years old. It's pretty hard. So I think in the sense that I can remember a lot
Yeah.
or a lot more. That shows how much you do actually take in once you get to sort of preteen.
Yeah. And your mum was when your parents broke up, your mum she already had leukemia by that point, right? She had it for years.
Yeah, she fought it for 5 years.
Yeah. Fuck, it sounds like she was a tough woman.
Oh, so tough.
Yeah.
So tough.
Like hid a lot from you guys?
What's that, sorry?
Hid a lot from you guys.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Like in terms of like you.
Oh, it hit her pain, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's what I meant.
Unless she couldn't get off the couch, she'd get off the couch and do whatever needed doing. Yeah, and it's hard to imagine like a concept of time looking back, but I'm not sure. I can't remember if she ever had to go into hospital for long stints before she passed away. I knew she was an outpatient and we'd have to go every now and then and get chemo and pick up her medicine and that. But yeah, outside of that, they're very good at acting like she had a lot of energy for us because that's all we ever saw was just mum being mum.
Fuck, that's a proud woman right there, isn't it?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when I see them, when I feel the amount of energy it takes, or I see what my wife does for my kids and the amount of energy it takes from her.
When you're fully healthy.
Exactly. Chucking chemotherapy on top of that and everything else that's going on, it's pretty phenomenal. And I'm so grateful she pushed through for us because she gave us 5 years of memories that if she had just put her feet up and, copped the sickness that we wouldn't have had.
Yeah, and she even wrote a kid's book, which I only learned about when I was doing the research for this. And fuck, it's heartbreaking. The book's called Who Will Tuck Me In? And it's basically, there's a line in the book, will we catch cancer? Asked Jackson, looking worried. And it's basically a book. It's like a help guide for parents that are going through cancer to help their kids sort of deal with it. And it's written in the first person, so you guys are in the book as characters.
Yeah.
Yeah. You must have a copy of it. How do you feel when you see it now?
Oh, pretty proud. Very proud. I remember at the time all the picture illustrations in there are from photos. So the photos that you see of us sitting in bed and stuff, we actually had to sit there and take a photo. And I just remember thinking it was so fun that we were going to be in a book. But it's not until I did a interview about Mum for Sky Sport in my third year of the Hurricanes, and they brought me a copy of it, and I got to reread it. Oh man, couldn't read it without crying. It's pretty special what she's been able to sort of portray and put in there in regard to, I don't know, putting it in a way that a child can understand or sort of try and get a concept of what cancer actually means.
I'm sure it's been a helpful. It was sort of sponsored by, I think, the Cancer Society. So I'm sure it's been like a really useful resource for heaps of other families going through the same thing. It's obviously I'm imagining at the time when she was going through it, she thought, why isn't there something like this? So took it upon herself to do it.
Yeah, like I suppose that's exactly what it is. So as a parent, sort of learning how to be a parent, there's lots of things that you're like, man, how do I have this conversation with my kids about all sorts of different subjects? Let alone the heavy hitters like long-term illness.
Yeah.
So yeah, she was very proactive in everything she did. So she thought, fuck it, there's not one there. Let's make one there.
Man, that's cool. So she ended up losing the battle with leukemia in 2008 when she was 46 years old. You were 14. What are your recollections of that time?
Not a lot, to be honest. I blocked a lot out for a long time, and I think that's really inhibited my ability to remember that period of time. But
yeah, it's like a coping mechanism, you think?
Yeah, big time. But yeah, pretty ruthless moment that she went into hospital for a routine checkup. Well, I think it was a routine checkup. She went into a coma, and they told my nanny at the time before she passed away that Mum wasn't going to wake up, so she had to. The three of us went in, and they told us that Mum's asleep and she's not going to wake up, and that was, I don't know, ruthless.
Was she on like life support at the time, or
I don't know if it was life support or just her body was just too weak to stay awake. And then I think either that night or the night after she passed away.
Yeah, so you're 14. That's a shit. It's a lot to go through.
Yeah, I just remember feeling quite numb.
Yeah.
I remember our dad took us for a long walk for a couple of hours, just along Mana Esplanade and the beach down in Mana. And I ended up just lagging behind everyone. I just lost in my head. I don't know. I can't remember. I was probably trying to gather my thoughts with no ability and no maturity on how to just
Well, you're at that sort of puberty age where there's your hormones racing everywhere, and so you have these feelings, but you just can't sort of process them. You just don't have the I don't know, that adult ability to process these things effectively.
Well, it's just tools. It's just life experience. It's just maturity. It's things that adults don't even get right. And yeah, I go easy on my 13-year-old self for the way that I handled it, because I didn't handle it well.
You didn't, yeah?
But I don't blame him.
In what way? Why didn't you handle it well, and what could you have done better?
My big thought that I remember having in my head, I didn't talk much, for one. I didn't know how. I didn't think I had to. The big thought in my head was, I've got to stay strong so that Georgia and Connor think it's going to be okay. So I cried a lot around when it initially happened, but after that, just tried to put on a really brave face. But to do that, I had to shut myself out and not think about much. So I remember my dad still talks about it now, just the way that I put in headphones and just blasted music with my hood up for the first year. That's sort of how I handled it. Just not handling it.
Yeah, and this is the time when you're in the first 15 at school that we were talking about. So was that sort of like part of the coping strategy, just like bury yourself in your sport?
Yeah, rugby's always been my outlet. That's probably the one place where I'm most comfortable in myself and in my ability, and the one place where I can really lock in and just think about being in the present.
Yeah.
So that the end of year 9 was when Mum passed away, and I think another part which was awesome for my life and a really good part of my life was the boarding house, but it also, being amongst 13 and 14-year-olds, wasn't a space where I can be sad, or if I was, it's not like people are going to come and have proper conversations with me about that.
Oh yeah, there's no vulnerability at a boarding house.
No way. You start crying, get teased.
Yeah. So, or if you show some vulnerability, it'll just be potentially be weaponized against you.
Yeah, exactly.
Next time there's a flare up.
So a lot of that time was spent either just having fun as per, just blocking everything out, playing rugby, and then every now and then, I'd say between year 10 and year 12, there'd be like two days a year where something would happen, and then I'd just break down crying, wouldn't be able to leave the boarding house. I'd call Dad, he'd come pick me up, and I'd just go home and cry for a day, and then go back to school the next day and sort of repeat process. So yeah, that's how I handled it. Didn't.
I suppose with the tools you had, you handled it the best way you possibly could at the time. I don't know, like for a 14-year-old, I feel like that's probably fairly standard.
Yeah, well, that's why I go easy on myself, and upon reflection.
Was there a housemaster or your dad or any relatives that tried to sort of, push you into therapy or anything like that?
I can't remember specifically about being pushed into therapy. If someone had ever tried to talk to me about it, I would have just said, "Oh, no, I'm all good," and just
the old all good.
Yeah, the old no, all good, bro.
Yeah, no, all good.
Yeah, no, all good.
Yeah.
Because like you say, I just didn't have the tools. I didn't understand that you need to deal with things. I didn't understand, even if I knew that, I wouldn't have known how to. So yeah, that's a learned thing over the years.
Yeah. And what about lessons from? I know you were very young when she passed, but lessons from her that have stuck with you to this day.
A funny one that me and my wife disagree on it. Not disagree on, but have different philosophies. Is we had these make your own pottery plates that we would write on, and she wrote on one and said, "The injury checklist: is it bleeding? Is there a bone sticking out? Is it noticeably disformed? If no, keep playing." So she was real tough in that sense, like just a real go-getter. I think I learn more when I reflect on the way that she was around her friends. Like these days, when I think back, she started a group with her close friends called the Black Spots, which was a culmination of me and my brother's sisters' mums, and she would put a black spot in their letterbox just with a location and a time, and they all had to, in their litter box, and they all had to turn up. And she'd make them do stuff like breakdancing classes, play rugby, go jump off the wharf, just real connection pieces for her and her mates. And I know she really valued her friends. And I think that's something that's really inspiring and something that I have taken a lot from over the last few years.
Can I just pause and say you're really, really good at articulating this now? Like, I'm trying to think when I was 30, I don't think I would have, if I'd been through what you had, I don't think I'd be at a point where I can articulate it the same way you can. It's really refreshing.
Yeah.
It's cool. You've done a lot of work, I can tell.
Yeah, it is a lot of work. It's a lot of understanding that, because when I first started trying to talk about this stuff, lots of lumps in throats, lots of wanting to cry, and then trying to hold it back, and then in holding it back, not wanting to talk about it. But it was one of my dad's mates after Connor passed away. He had also lost someone close to him, and he said, "Man, you gotta hope that you cry a lot. You gotta hope that never stops, because it's just waves of love, and it's just the more that you cry, the more that you love the person." So I'm not scared to be sad about it, and through just practice and understanding that I need to talk about it to keep the memories alive, and make my kids hear the stories. My wife never met my mum, so make sure that she can hear the stories. But yeah, it is learned, and I had to sort of force myself into it over the last few years, and still working on it, because bottling it in doesn't work for me.
No, it doesn't work for anyone. It's like you go to the gym, you get your gym clothes and you stuff them in a bag, put them in the boot of a car. It's just going to get worse and worse, and eventually you're going to have to deal with it one day, right?
That's a great analogy.
It's not going anywhere. I had this guy's before your time, but this guy Mark Graham, he's considered like one of the hardest rugby league players of all time. And his when he was coaching the Warriors in the early 2000s, his son ended up taking his own life. And I had him on the podcast, and I talked to him about it, and he goes, "Oh, I'd rather not talk about it." He goes, "This is probably not the correct way to deal with it, but I find if I think about it and talk about it, it hurts. So I just try not to talk about it." And I thought, fair play to you.
Yeah.
If that's your coping strategy, then that's fine. But
it hurts because he loved him.
Yeah.
If there's one thing to say to him, it's a good thing that it hurts.
Yeah.
If it didn't hurt, you probably didn't care.
Yeah. When do you miss her most?
My mum. Big events, weddings, funerals, birthdays, anything around that, where when I look at my sister getting married and her mum was there, she's lost her dad, so she's feeling sad as well. But just thinking that my mum wasn't going to be able to be at my wedding, she won't meet my kids, big stuff like that you just you want to share with your mum. The stuff I love sharing with my dad is like, man, I wish I could share this with mum as well. Yeah, I suppose it's almost like survivor's guilt in a way, because you know that the FOMO that you should have, because how much it would mean to her being there. 100%.
Yeah. Man, I'm real sorry for your loss.
No, appreciate that.
Let's talk about your wife for a bit, and then we'll get into your bro. So your wife Rosie, what's the meet cute? When did you guys meet?
We met in 2018, I think it was.
Was this in your party years?
Yep, very much so.
I heard about a flat you were in called Buller Street.
Who told you about Buller Street?
I heard it on another podcast, and it was
it's infamous spot that.
The story you told on this podcast was like a mini version of the Big Day Out or a festival. So your room was like the drum and bass room.
Yeah,
and there was like themed rooms.
Yeah.
What the fuck? You didn't get your bond back at the end of the year, did you?
Nah, no way. That was at the back end of about 4 years of that sort of carry on. So, yeah, some great memories in there, and one of them was meeting my wife. So
right, so this Buller Street party flat is running alongside your professional rugby career.
Yeah. So the coaches hated Buller Street because it was right in the middle of Wellington. So we're a 5-minute walk to Courtney Place, massive 5 bedrooms with a big backyard. So it was real easy to get to after games on the way to town. Yeah, it was good. It was good.
Good memories. So how did you meet your wife? Did she end up at a party there, or?
Yeah, so one of her good mates moved in just as a flatmate, and whenever someone moved in, have a wee housewarming for them. I think it was a Monday night. Nah, it would have been a weekend. Should have been a weekend. But anyway, she came along, and yeah, just got to know each other over that night and over the coming weeks. And then she eventually moved into our flat as a flatmate. And one of the rules was that I had to stop getting with her if she was going to move in. Obviously, yeah, nodded.
Nodded. The rules.
Yes, of course. But yeah, didn't stop. Yeah, and then here we are.
Amazing.
And short.
You got pregnant quite early on, eh?
Yeah, so we've been seeing each other for about 5 months, I think, when she got pregnant.
How was that? Was that scary?
You
don't really know after 5 months, do you? Or did you know?
Oh, I definitely think I knew. I wasn't looking for anything serious at that time. But, yeah, it managed to stick. In terms of finding out that we were pregnant, she was a lot more scared than I was. She called me up, texted me and said we need to talk. Got in the car, she was crying. I'm pregnant, and I was a lot calmer than she was. I was like, I'm quite matter of fact, and I just said, we can afford this. We love each other. If you want to keep it, we'll be sweet. We'll figure the rest out. And she always was going to keep it, and yeah, I had no issues with that.
Yeah, and is this when you started therapy? I heard that she sort of forced you guys to go to couples therapy.
Not forced, but I'm trying to think when we started. Marley was definitely a baby, but at the time it was just because we were so young and we hadn't been together for very long. She was just exploring options and ways to teach us how to communicate better with each other, through sort of how to deal with life and being parents at such a young age. She was only 21 at the time. In a space where we were trying to figure out our relationship, like full stop, like we were only together for 5 months, obviously before she got pregnant. So I think Marley was definitely born when we started going. And yeah, we've been going ever since. Yeah,
where did she get that idea from? That's crazy wisdom. Like I don't say she forced you in a bad way. It's just like just wisdom beyond her years to think, okay, if we're gonna make a real go of this and make this work, then we need tools of communication. Like most people would think of like couples counselling as ambulance at the bottom of the cliff sort of stuff, but to go there as a tool to make the relationship healthy before it gets unhealthy is it's some Did she get the idea from like a family member? Is she religious or?
No, I'm not sure where she got it. It's definitely not like we're a perfect relationship. Yeah. And she said, right, let's go to couples counselling. But yeah, she was definitely proactive in the sense that there's some stuff going on here that we don't have the ability to deal with ourselves. Let's go and figure out how to deal with it before it becomes a real issue. And over the years there have been some real issues that that therapist has helped us through and helped us communicate through. But yeah, no. She's a wise woman, Rosie.
Oh no, relationships are tough, eh? And life's tough, and you realise, to keep these things going, like it does require work.
100%, 100%. Especially when you're figuring out who you are yourself as an individual, and then.
So you guys have got 3 now. Machu, your youngest, was born last year. Do you still want 7?
Nah.
So a podcast I heard from you in 2020. I think you said you wanted 7 kids.
Yeah, so when we first met, we both said 7, just without having spoken to each other. That came down after we had 1. It came down again after we had 2. So we'll be hoping that the next one's a girl, because we've promised Marley that we'd try for a sister. If our 4th's a boy, then conversations will need to be had.
Oh, so you're definitely going back for round 4?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I speak for myself.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure Rosie's keen. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, no. So we're definitely keen for 4.
So she's at home with like a 6-month-old at the moment? Yeah, I'm sure.
Just gone 5, yeah.
5. That's just the last thing on her mind right now.
Oh, who knows?
Yeah.
Get them out of the way.
Yeah, there was a real special moment where, for that 100th game for Wellington that we were talking about before, you walked out onto the field with Rosie and your 3 kids.
Yeah, that's peak life for me. You know, that's the team that I've loved the most for a long time. That's an achievement I'm so proud of. Walking out with the 4 achievements I'm most proud of as well. So, yeah, that's cool. I'm glad through a lot of life perspective, I was able to just be in that moment real presently and soak that in, because there's not many people that get to do that. Yeah, it's cool to think back on, man. And so cool with media these days, how accessible that's going to be forever. With Machu's an adult and he can look back at wee baby him going out, and then Marley and Milo too. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, you're so right. There'll be video on YouTube, or if you Google it, it's going to be there somewhere forever.
Yeah.
It's really cool. No, so the counselling you guys got, like, what did you get from that? Like, did you find it like an eye-opening experience? Did you realise, oh, maybe I could use this, in a different capacity to help with, processing mum and?
Yeah, there was a lot of sort of individual reflection within it, in terms of figuring out and understanding the ways that I communicate or don't communicate, and understanding why that is the case, understanding that the way that I see the world or believe things should be handled isn't how everyone handles it, especially Rosie, and just giving the tools sort of to communicate calmly and try and see things from each other's perspectives.
Were you not that good at communicating, do you think, or just a different communication style?
Definitely not good at both a different communication style and not very good at it. My ability to be open and honest and vulnerable has taken a long time and still not perfect, but it's always been hard for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, working on it, and that was definitely one of the things that needed the most work.
Well, mate, I'm jealous of like where you're at and the work you've done. Like I'm 52, and I reckon I was probably 45 when I started, doing the deep work. So you've got a massive jump on me, and I think a lot of young guys as well. I think the stuff that you're talking about in your early 20s, I think that's probably fairly typical, right? Just the poor communication style, or not being good at vulnerability and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think so. Accentuated by the fact that we were going to have a kid, and that we were committing to be together.
Yeah,
definitely meant that I had to try and sort that stuff earlier than I was definitely planning to. So yeah, it was important. And
you guys seem like a tight unit. So you've done some stints playing rugby in Japan and France, and a lot of rugby players that do that, they'll go over there themselves for a season or whatever and leave the family behind. But you travelled as a unit.
Yeah.
How was Japan? Like, were you living in an apartment or?
Yeah, we shoebox, two bedroom apartment with a little tatami room. So yeah, that was hectic with a 1 and 2 year old.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
But we were always going to move around together at that stage of the kids' lives, because it was easy to move them. I think now that Marley's starting school and Milo will start school next year, it becomes a lot harder to uproot and move so easily. So yeah, that was very tough on Rosie moving overseas, but it was definitely the right decision, given the fact that soon we won't be able to move the kids that easily. We don't want to.
Yeah, because that could feel real isolating for her as well, like being in a country like Japan where you can't speak the language. I went over there a few years ago. The public transport system, it's really hard to navigate.
Yeah.
Had my translator app up, that was going crazy. So with homesickness and everything else, and and a home with a 2-year-old and 1-year-old, it could create real tension in a relationship if the relationship wasn't tight.
Oh, definitely. And I think especially with young kids, it's hard to socialise. You got to plan everything around the babies. We got lucky both in Japan and France that the group of foreigners there were awesome. Rosie got tight with a couple of girls in both spots that really helped look after each other. But yeah, just in general, it's very hard. It's so easy as a player to go to move over there. I go to work, not looking after the kids, don't have to plan anything for them. I go and meet a squad full of friends. I have a purpose every day. I go and train hard. We've got a game on the weekend. I'm looking forward to that. That's what I want to do. So yeah, definitely a lot of sacrifice that I never sort of appreciated and imagined would have to be happening from my partner until we lived it.
Is the money good for those things, those stints overseas?
Yep.
If you're like a Super Rugby level player in New Zealand and you go over there, is it?
Yeah, there's definitely, especially...
Is that sort of the motivation for doing it, really?
I'd say so. I'd say so. The money in Japan and France is a lot better than it is here. But yeah, after my 2 years, I was sort of starting to weigh up what is money worth versus time away from home and being away from the place you love and people you love.
Yeah, because the homesickness thing must play a real part. Because you were in France last year when you heard the news about the brother, your brother Connor, and that's when you abandoned your contract early and came home.
Yeah, so there was some contractual stuff that was going on there anyway, but I was still signed to stay there for another year at least. And yeah, we got the call. We were hopping in the car to go somewhere. Got the call from my sister, heard the news. Within 2 hours, we were on our way to Bordeaux with our bags, just ready to fly to London to meet my sister and then back here. So, the dry was still on, I'm pretty sure, and everything was just as is. So.
Oh, so it was your sister that gave you the news?
Yeah, she called me.
She was in London at the time?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, she lives there with her fiancé. I'd had a couple of calls from my cousin Aaron Major, who you spoke about before. And then, it wasn't Georgia called Rosie and got a hold of it and said, put Jackson on. And she broke the news to me. Strong girl. Strong woman.
Yeah, that's she's younger than you as well. Not that, I mean, even regardless, it's a call that no sibling should ever have to make. Can you remember the call?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was very short before I was obviously overwhelmed, but.
Were you confused? Or you think it was a joke or?
Well, when she said, the tone in her voice, I could tell something was wrong. I was playing over. I never thought it was Connor. I never ever would have thought it was Connor. She said, Jackson, I don't know how to tell you this, but Connor passed away last night. And I just remember being like, do you mean our Connor? Like, our brother Connor? And she was like, yeah. And I was just, I was on the floor after that. And she was obviously in tears on the other end and just sort of held the phone by me. I couldn't say anything or anything like that. And the rest is a real blur.
Yeah, the next 24, 48, 100 hours or whatever, what do they look like? Just throw some shit in a bag and book a flight?
Yeah, so we were just... Rosie and George's fiancé Luke were superheroes in the sense that they just handled the logistics, which so grateful for. They were just straight on booking flights, planning it all out. Quickly had to find a ride to Bordeaux, which one of my teammates over there did. And then just put everything in the bags that we thought we'd need. We didn't know if we were going back to France or not. And then got to London was the first step because Georgia was there. So got to there, saw her, and then the next day we flew home. But yeah, real blur. The flight home was, we obviously booked it really late last minute, so we were all split up. And I remember it was just me and an empty seat and an old lady. And I just remember looking out the window, and she must have just thought I was mad, just crying the whole time, or just in and out of not even watching a movie or anything, just staring at the seat, staring out the window, intermittently bursting into tears. Just it was just such a. You just can't switch back to reality and be like, why am I on this plane? Oh, it's because your brother's passed away. And it's like, far out. What are we actually flying back to right now? It's just like, didn't want it to be real.
Yes, that was 17th of June last year. And the media reported at the time as it being a medical event. What was it, like a heart thing? Or
suspected heart thing. Still not 100% sure. They're doing a lot of research at the moment around...
like the coroner's thing.
The coroner's thing came back, and it was... The only thing that was wrong or out of the ordinary was a slightly enlarged heart, but that's not unheard of, or it's pretty normal for athletes to have a slightly enlarged heart, just
it's a muscle.
Based on the occupation, So at the moment, it's still unsolved. There's some blood tests. His blood got sent to Switzerland, I think it is. That'll come back with a lot of genetic information to see if there was anything in the genes. All of us are getting tested as well to see if we have something in our genes as well that might have been, but no real clarity.
That's terrifying.
Which is bizarre.
His last post on Instagram was just like basically a tribute post saying how much he enjoyed playing for the Highlanders last year. Yeah, and then to think, a couple of weeks later, like a fit and healthy young man in his 20s can be gone. It's
it's crazy.
It's terrifying.
It is crazy.
What was your last conversation or text exchange with him?
Two notable FaceTimes I had with him. The first one was him at his end of year piss up with the Highlanders, and they were all wearing their club jerseys. I remember I couldn't hear him because they were loud, but he just had the phone up, sort of going like this with a drink, just sort of like just being wasted. And I was like, "Love you, bro. Looks like you're having fun." And then the last time I spoke to him was after our team's end of year, and I'd parked my car on the other side of town. It was about a 15-minute walk away, and I was walking back there and just FaceTimed him because I was bored. And we were just talking, and he just sorted his deal with his Japanese club, which he was excited about. We were sort of talking about what his thoughts were behind it, and he's like, potential to go over there for 5 years and potentially become Japan eligible, and all this stuff. Just a real casual conversation. Yeah, it's pretty. Like obviously his messages are pinned at the top of my text, and that's just how nonchalant our last messages were. It's just crazy to think that was it.
Well, you don't know the significance of it, do you? You have no way of knowing.
Yeah.
And what was tell me about Connor, and in particular, like your relationship with him.
Connor was awesome in terms of our relationship.
Quite a big age gap, hey, with siblings.
Yeah, I was going to say it developed over the years. It finished as best friends. But yeah, that age gap, you think about 5 years between a 10-year-old and a 5-year-old. 5-year-olds are bloody annoying. So a lot of the time growing up was me giving him hidings for being annoying.
There's a power imbalance there.
Yeah.
You bully.
Yeah. Well, he was a little shit. He was a little shit. He always cheated at games. He always super competitive, wanted to win everything. So I had to bring him back down and to play by the rules.
It's your duty as an older brother.
Exactly. But I didn't really start appreciating him as a brother until I went to boarding school. So I only saw him for 2 days a week, which was on the weekends. So in small doses, I really grew to be able to deal with that better and understand him more and love him more, I guess. And then just into adulthood, it just became genuine peers. Just he'd be the one that I talked to for advice or let him know what's going on or for anything. Yeah.
He did a podcast. Then he said you were his idol, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, that's the reason why I still wasn't able to listen to that podcast.
Yeah.
Because I never even listened to that while he was alive.
Yeah, this is a podcast, by the way, called Beyond the Surface.
Yeah.
Which you've been a guest on as well.
Yeah, well, the reason I went on is because Connor did it, and I was like, that's a time capsule that I want to be able to give the people that I love. Something that I'm grateful for. I messaged Noah about a month after Connor passed away, just saying thanks for. I'm so grateful that this is here and it's always going to be here. But yeah, to actually hear that, something that I took for granted. I'm just big brother, you know. But when he's talking about running out for his debut as the Lions and from his perspective and getting to run out behind me as his idol and just saying how cool that was, where at the same time, that's one of my best memories. And I think he was in front of me and I'm thinking, this is awesome, my baby brother, we're doing this at the same time. So just to know that we were aligned there, that's a pretty cool thing to hear. Pretty cool thing to feel.
Was it more enjoyable playing with him or playing against him?
Oh, we had fun. We had fun regardless. But I definitely enjoyed playing with him. There's no worry of him running around me.
What would he say if he was here to defend himself?
Hey,
would he be calling bullshit on that?
No, I don't know. I don't know. We had fun regardless. He didn't take life too seriously, old Connor. We were playing against each other. Hurricanes versus Highlanders, and we ended up marking each other. We never got to. Actually, the ball didn't come our way, but he was saying, mismatch over here, mismatch over here. And I was giving him shit back, but I know it was actually a mismatch. If he got the ball, he would run around the outside.
Because I've had, one of the Crusaders coaches, James Marshall, I've had him on the podcast, and he talked about when he was playing against his brother, and he said it was fucking tense that week. I think it was the NPC final, maybe Wellington, Taranaki. And they didn't talk that week and it was awkward for their parents and everyone?
Oh, yeah.
Sounds like it was...
Nah, we'd be more jokey
Yeah.
leading up. The business time on the field, well, like we were definitely going to compete and try win. But yeah, I'd always give them shit. Sort of, we'd be trying to figure out when our off seasons will be, and if the finals are in June, I'd be like, oh yeah, you guys will be off by May. Don't worry, you can start booking holidays by May, Connor. Don't worry.
What an asshole! Oh, that's cool. That's really special. And how's his he's the dad of twins. How's his partner and his kids doing?
His kids are beautiful. Yeah, his baby pictures look just like their baby pictures. That's another relationship that as a family we're working on at the moment. Not always easy to sort of navigate that with their mum and her new partner, just sort of trying to figure out how we can best, I don't know, fulfill the wishes of Connor to them. Has been tricky at times, but we're hoping that it gets to a really good place where we can do what we said after he passed away and be there for them as much as we can.
Yeah, it's a shitty thing for everyone to navigate, isn't it? It's tough. Oh, did he have the twins without telling you? So you didn't?
Yeah, dickhead.
So what was that? So he got his partner pregnant, and what did he not tell anyone?
Nah, he hadn't told anyone. So
how old was he?
So he wasn't actually. He wasn't with the mum.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if that was a part of why he didn't tell us, but yeah, 9 months didn't tell anyone. And it was just before, just after Marley had been born. So it was going to be my first Father's Day. And we were just hanging out downstairs at my house. And I said, we just had a quiet moment. And I was like, man, I can't believe like I'm a dad. And this is going to be my first Father's Day. And he goes, me too. And I was like, what the hell? He's got someone pregnant. Because it's not completely like unreasonable. And I was like, what do you mean? Is someone pregnant? And she goes, yeah, she was. And I was like, what do you mean? Is the baby already born? And he goes, yeah, they are. And I was like, oh my goodness. So it just kept snowballing. First of all, yeah.
Why? Did you get to the bottom of that? Like, why did he not feel like he could?
I'm not sure. No, we had a couple of yarns about it. But yeah, no, I never really got, I don't know if he just didn't want to, admit to himself that he was going to be a dad, because I know that he struggled with that, especially early on in the pregnancy, because he wasn't chasing kids at that point. And then probably just a bit of, not shame, but once you haven't talked about it, how do you start talking about it? And then I guess he had no choice once they were born.
Well, yeah, it gets to the point of no return, eh? Like,
yeah.
Oh, I've left it too late to sort of bring it up now.
Yeah. Oh no, they might judge me because it's been 5 months. So I judged them at 9 months.
That's great. There's this photo I found online, like an iconic photo actually of you guys. There's a sequence of photos. Where was that? Was that Ranfurly Shield or NPC?
Nah, that was NPC final down in Christchurch.
Yeah. So you guys won?
Yep, we just won down there.
Man.
And found the cameraman, and said this will be one for the ages. No, to be honest, I didn't think anything about it. But since he's passed away, and looking at that photo more and more, and there's the one where he's pouring a beer into the trophy.
Yeah.
And,
tongue out.
Oh, it's just how amazing is it that me and my brother were able to do that together. That's so cool.
Yeah. So it makes you happy when you see it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long was it before you could find happiness in it, in moments like that, and not just sadness?
Straight away. But yeah. But it's just a spectrum. Sometimes it makes me feel sad that it'll never happen again. Sometimes it makes me feel super grateful that it ever did happen. And just that, yeah. Just understanding that either way's fine. Like it is what it is. Yeah, because like I say, the sadness about it is because I loved him. The happiness about it is because I loved him. All the feelings I feel about it is just because I loved him, and I'm so proud of that photo in particular, but just that he was my brother.
Yeah, fucking, you can see how proud he was of you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long was it before you could talk about him like this without, getting emotional? So it hasn't been that long, eh? Like 8 months now?
Yeah, 8 months. I'm not sure. I think I took a lot of learning of how I didn't talk about mum and how that's affected me over the years, and how I don't want to handle it like that again. So as much as possible, I want to be able to talk about them. It's hard and to, I don't know, socially, how do you start that conversation? I know people are probably wondering the same thing, like, can they talk about Connor? But yeah, it is what it is. I don't know. I don't really know how to answer that, because sometimes I still get too sad to talk about him. But
yeah, I think what you said before was I had a guy on the podcast called Mark Longley, and his daughter got murdered by her partner in the UK in 2011, and so similar experience to you, except he was flying in the other direction. But so he got the phone call. He said, "Your daughter's dead. You need to come over." He said the whole plane ride over, he was like, "I don't believe it until I see it with my eyes." Then he went to the morgue and he saw her there, and he still didn't believe it. He thought it was her playing a joke, perhaps. Then touched her skin, and it was freezing cold, and he knew then it was for real. But talking about his grief, he said he's recognised over the years that he wants to feel sad about it, because if he doesn't feel sad, it means, the love wasn't big enough or whatever.
Yeah,
similar thing to what you said before.
Yeah, and that's a pretty hard thing to sort of understand, and I suppose learn until you're actually in a place where you're so sad that those sort of experiences are happening, and then to be there, and then also to find that level of understanding is hard, and it's taken a few loved ones passing away for me to understand that.
Yeah. Have you been seeing a therapist to deal with the Connor stuff?
I saw a few counsellors down in Wellington. I didn't get much out of them, to be fair. A lot of sort of cookie cutter stuff. They all say they think nice thoughts, and if you're feeling angry, get in the gym and think the thoughts while you're getting rid of them. I don't get too much out of that, because I'm not worried about the sadness and the grief. I've started seeing a psychiatrist to sort of understand the bad habits that I get into when I'm in those states, and the actual physical response that I have in dealing with stuff, and how I can not do that. But yeah, I know some form of professional help is definitely necessary. It's just finding the right one. And the psychiatrist, I just met him for the first time last week. He seems really cool, so I'm seeing him again tomorrow.
Yeah, 'cause we had to juggle this podcast timing around because it was supposed to be at the same time as your appointment with your psychiatrist, and I fully respect that. Yeah, there's no way that. I was going to say, no, don't go to the...
Cancel that.
Cancel that. This is way
You need to get on the podcast.
Oh, no. Yeah, we could have rescheduled this another time completely. Like, it didn't matter. When Bella, who booked you as a guest, said you had a therapy session, it was like, oh, shit, this is cool. I've got full respect for that. Yeah. Yeah, so much you've been through. What's the therapist said in terms of, you sort of touched earlier upon the bad habits that you lean into when you're dealing with this sort of adversity. What's some of the tips to avoid that other people could use potentially?
So last week was very much just like a preliminary meeting with him. We did lots of tests, lots of sort of questionnaires to sort of actually dive deeper into the way that I think and the way my brain works. And from that, he said, there's a couple of things that might be there that are, I don't know, making it hard for you to steer away from those things. Got things like ADHD, potential bipolar, which is a huge scary word, but he didn't seem to think so. But I'm doing more tests for that tomorrow, and then from there he'll put a plan in place for me, which is cool. It was the first time anyone's really dived into how did you act when you were a kid, how did you act after your mum, like what sort of thoughts were you having during all those times, to what you can remember, and what's happening now for you, and sort of putting the pieces together to sort of figure out what's actually goes on in different stages of this grief and this life.
Yeah, I mean, we've only been chatting for like an hour and a bit, but you don't seem to have any sort of walls up, eh? Like, you're really good at talking about this vulnerability stuff.
Yeah, I have to be. I'm trying really hard in life when asked questions, just to be honest. Obviously, I'm getting asked a lot of questions here, so there's a lot of honesty, but it's good practice for when it happens in general.
Yeah, do you get media training and stuff in rugby?
I did get a little bit of media training sort of like what we were talking about before, but it's changed over the years.
Yeah, we talked about this off the air before we went in. So they, yes, at the start of because you've been around for so long. At the start of your career, it was like, hey?
Cheers.
Oh, no. How do you feel about that, being one of the older guys now? It's a privilege, right?
Yeah, I feel bad for giving all the old guys shit when I was younger. Because the older I get, the more I realise that age doesn't care.
It creeps up so
age doesn't matter.
Creeps up so fast as well.
But no, it's cool. It's cool to be in a place of experience and maturity where you can, where the game is more than just playing. It's about developing people, developing connections within the group, and playing a part in all of that's fun. But yeah, the media training has changed a lot. I remember that they used to get a guy in and he'd say, sweet, we'd practice questions that were asked and we'd have to try and get it back to a particular topic that the team was focusing on that week. So it might have been, I don't know, work rate, for example, and the question would be something far outside that, and then we're like, okay, how do we draw this back to the way that we want to think about it? But,
felt like it was like say as much as you can, but also say as little as you can at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas this day and age, it's more be yourself, say what you want, don't be a dick. Like, don't do anything that's going to put the team in a bad light. But at the same time, just be a person, because that's what everyone are, it's just people.
Yeah, and I feel like your captain, and actually a teammate for many years, Artie Sevilla, he's really good. At that honesty and vulnerability piece as well.
Yeah, big time. There's been a couple of players, him and TJ probably are the two that come to mind, just around just being unapologetically themselves. In any scenario, what you see on the media is how they are off media as well. So.
But what about for you? Biggest lessons through these like tragedies that you've been through?
The importance of talking. But I suppose the step before that is just sort of the understanding that it's okay to feel however you feel, and understand that it's okay to feel shit and be in a bad place, and that as long as you trust the people you love and you talk to them about it, they're going to be there to support you and lean on and help you through it as much as you need them. So I think those are probably the two big ones.
It's hard though, because you don't want to burden people, eh? Like, there's that aspect as well.
But see, that I always the fear of that is always minimised once you say it out loud, and they're like, "Oh, I don't care. Like, this is all good." And then it's probably just a cycle, because if it's too much for them, they'll say that back, and we got to go find someone together to do it. So
yeah. What about your inner voice? What's that like? When you're in the car or on your airplane flight going somewhere, and you're just alone with your own thoughts. What's that like? Are you quite kind to yourself?
On and off, I'm trying to be kinder. What a confronting question. Far out.
Sorry, you've got some confronting ones here.
Hey, no, it's probably not something that
you can bring it back to the game plan for the week if you want.
I probably need to, work harder. No. David Neath, who you've had on here.
Big Dave.
He is our mental skills coach at the moment. He says 60 to 80,000 thoughts we have a day, and the majority of them are negative. And I suppose I'm on the journey that he talks about, and sort of being aware of that, and when those thoughts are happening, flipping it and turning it into a positive, or when you have one negative thought, turning it into 3 positive thoughts, and sort of mantras. So yeah, without having actual thought about that, that's hard. That's pretty hard to answer. I'd say for the majority of the time it's pretty negative, but also aware of that and trying to be more positive with it.
Yeah, it's hard, eh? I'm much the same. And a lot of high performers I've had on the podcast are exactly the same. Like they're actual bullies to themselves. And part of it, you think, well, maybe it gives you that edge where you continuously striving for better, but then it's not healthy. Like, you can go on the internet, there's plenty of people that'll talk shit about you. You don't need to do it yourself.
I think it's probably necessary as a professional athlete to be hard on yourself, because you're not going to accept what's not good enough.
Yeah.
But then there's the I don't know, the line where you say, I've made a mistake here, that wasn't good enough, to I made a mistake here, that means you're a shit cunt. What can I
You just did.
You know?
I'm not cutting that bit out. It's a great combination of words, by the way, that wasn't it? It's not used often enough.
Yeah, no, it's not. Well, it is in our environment, probably. No. But sort of that line, that's the unnecessary line, where when you're talking bad on your character because of a negative action, you know, that's probably unnecessary.
Yeah. What about your best and worst habits? What do you think they would be? You just grinned there at that one. Your instant reaction was
just the journey I'm on in my rehabilitation at the moment. My family would be able to answer my bad habits.
I saw you having a vape in the car before.
Yeah, no, well, I'm sober, trying to be sober at the moment, so the vape helps.
Well, cheeky vape never hurt.
Hey.
Yeah, you're from like a fine team of smokers from back in the day. Wasn't like Ma'a and Jerry, weren't they?
Well, I never got to play with them, but I've seen plenty of photos of JC with a cig in his mouth and arm wrestling people in the pub. I think he was an outlier in the sense that he could do that and then play the next day and smash people.
I think even this might be before your dad's era. Grant Fox, the famous number 10, I believe he was a Durry smoker.
Yeah, similar. I think the same area. I think Grant Fox took my dad's spot in the All Blacks actually. But yeah, so many stories of the halftime cigarettes back then, which is vaping sort of becoming that thing. It's weird. Like if you saw a cigarette around the team environment now, you'd be like, what the hell's going on? But there's vapes left and right.
Yeah. What's your go-to flavour? Is it a sweet one?
I'm only at the moment I'm rocking pineapple coconut. But I'm literally only a recent vapor.
You can see why it's dangerous for kids, eh? Like pineapple coconut. That sounds delicious.
Yeah, I'm nervous for my youngest brother and sister. They're 10 and 12 at the moment, and yeah, got to keep an eye on that, I think.
Oh yeah, because you got a blended family, eh? So how many siblings all up? So there's you, Connor, and Georgia.
Yeah,
3, and then your dad has.
My dad met his partner Belle, recently separated, but she has 3 kids. Mia, Toby, and Tilly, and then they had 2 kids together, Bo and Eva. So there's 8 of us.
So do you feel like a brother or an uncle?
Oh, brother.
Yeah, do you?
Yeah, definitely brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a big age gap.
Yeah, it is a big age gap, but yeah, I'm not sure why. That probably could happen in some instances, but
yeah,
that's little bro, little sis.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I love the family dynamic. It's best and worst habits. What? Yeah.
I won't say my worst habits.
Okay.
I don't even know what my best habits would be. Definitely the place where I'm most consistent is my rugby. That's probably the one area where I'm confident and accurate, and so just my habits around planning my week and making sure that I tick off all the boxes to make sure I play well.
Yeah, and to be at the level that you've been at for as long as what you have, that requires a certain amount of discipline.
Yeah, I think so. Especially around your body. It's our number one tool. And I've never been the most shredded or anything, but I've always been able to stay on the park for long stints and touch wood, I've only had a couple of major injuries, but yeah, I think I've learned, especially as I've got older, the more you can look after your body and the more you're available to play, the more valuable you are, and the longer that you'll be able to do it.
What's the what if that keeps you up at night?
Oh, the what if. Well, it hasn't been a what if keeping me up at night. That conversation that phone call that Georgia gave me, the words of saying that kept me up at night and still does every now and then. If that gets ringing in my ear, I definitely need to put on some Netflix or a podcast or something to make sure I'm not thinking about that. Not sure about a what if.
Yeah, how is your
What's
sister?
an example of a what if?
I don't know. It can be anything. It's all.
What's your what if?
Oh, this isn't my podcast.
Yeah, so flip it back. Give me time to think.
I don't want to. Yeah. Actually, I should. I don't know. I like to spring these on people, but maybe I should give them to people in advance so they got time to think about it.
Yeah.
But it's nice to get people's natural reaction.
No, it's definitely better. It's just hard to think of on the spot.
Yeah. How is your sister? That's that's a phone call that no one deserves to make, eh?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I haven't
Is she
actually.
all right?
No, probably not. Probably not. We catch up and yeah, her life's good. She's engaged over in London. She owns a house over there, but I know she wishes she was closer to home. Yeah, she'll be feeling really homesick over there. I wish she was closer to home too. She's getting married next January, which is exciting. But yeah, like all of us siblings, man, it's just we're all pretty shit. as underlying. We're like, all answers that we give to anything, you can just assume there's a level of just shit.
But there's something really endearing and likable about admitting that, because I feel like everyone.
It's pretty relatable. Everyone's got something.
No, but everyone also wears a mask. Like everyone has like a persona that they want the world to see, and it's like the thing I like about the podcast is it's kind of like the greatest hits and greatest shits of someone's life, really. You know, because life is not all a greatest hits record, is it? You know,
Yeah.
Everyone has some
Instagram.
adversity, and a lot of people don't want to share that stuff because it's crunchy, it's embarrassing at times.
It is, but I don't think we're embarrassed by it now. It's like I said, my step siblings, they lost their dad when they were young. We lost our mum. Now we've lost our brother. It's like, it's not laughable, but it is. It's like, fuck, man.
What else have you got?
Like, what is life?
Yeah.
And then, that doesn't even include like the people around us, friends and extended family that have passed away too. Like, we've been through a fair bit, and now it's just like, all right, everyone admit that we're shit, and that's all right, but let's work together to make sure that on top of that, we still are happy in what we're doing and living fulfilling lives.
It's all you can do, eh? Just try and be a bit better every day.
Yeah, we can try to.
When was the last time you cried?
Last time I cried, within the last week, I think, yeah.
About your bro?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Sonia O'Neill, the PDM for the Highlanders, she messaged me just asking permission from the family to sort of honour Connor in their first home game for the Highlanders. And she sort of just gave a little rundown of what they might do. And she's like, let us know if you have any thoughts around it. I was like, you can definitely do it. The one thing, I think if there's going to be a moment of silence, could you please change that to a moment of be as loud as you can? Because that was Connor. He just wanted noise and wanted the zoo to be going nuts. So I sent her that, and I sort of put it down, and I sort of started imagining that happening and how cool that would be. Yeah, and then it's happening now, which is, it's just such a cool thought, such a shit thought to have, but imagining that moment is pretty powerful.
That's giving me goosebumps. Yeah.
I hope they do that. They haven't confirmed or not, but...
Also, with the Dunedin crowd, I think that's easier than a minute's silence.
100%. Trying to get that zoo to be
Pushing
quiet
shit
for a
up a hill,
minute.
getting everyone to be quiet for a minute. Fuck, that would be cool. Would you be there for it? Would you be able to be there for it?
I'd have to look at the schedule. I think when I looked at it, I wouldn't be able to, but I know my brother Toby will definitely fly down for it.
Would you want to be there for it, or would it be too hard?
Oh no, I'd love to be there for that. That's cool. And that sort of big event in honour of him isn't going to happen forever. Like, that's obviously it's very fresh, and that's the first time. So it's like, as much as possible, have those cool memories.
Is there a mistake that you wish you could go back and correct?
Oh, plenty. Plenty. How long? Nah.
Well, you got a game this weekend, so
Nah. There is a lot. There's a lot. I won't get into it, but I've put a lot of pressure on my wife over the years through the way that I've acted in many different facets of life. That I wish I could take back, just because there's a lot of stuff I've also done that's harmed myself, not physically, but knowing that I've hurt the person that I love the most, is pretty shit.
harming yourself, like in terms of like drugs and alcohol.
Yeah, drugs and alcohol, bad decisions with people and money and all sorts, but.
I'll tell you, masking your feelings with like drugs and alcohol over the years, no one would begrudge you that, I don't think.
Oh, 100%. And
it's not.
It hasn't been till recently that I've been completely open and honest with my family about it as well. And it was like a weight lifted off my chest when I did open up to them about everything that was going on, because they were like, well, we knew something was going on. You're an idiot for not telling us early. And I agree with them. But yeah, it's just, when you're in a certain frame of mind, you're in a certain frame of mind, and your brain talks you into things and justifies a lot of things that don't even make sense.
Yeah, and like in terms of like, pushing Rosie away or acting in a way that could put that relationship at harm. Like, is it like a self-sabotage thing, or?
I'm not sure. I hope I can get into that more with my psychiatrist, because it has been like intermittent throughout our whole relationship. and something I haven't been able to do like consistently at all through the last 6 years. So I'm still trying to get a handle on that and more of an understanding on that, so that I can have the tools to be consistent.
I think the only rugby player I've had on that's been as honest as what you've been today is probably Zach Gilford. But there
you go.
No, but his dirty laundry was well and truly public.
Yeah.
Like, had been dragged through the papers, dragged through the court system. You're surrendering this information, and like it's not out there. Like, you don't have to. And I think there's a huge amount of courage in that.
Yeah, it's also not. I'm not hiding it. It's just if I don't have to talk about it to people, why would I? But if my close friends ask me, I'll tell them. It's also all very fresh, sort of the openness, sort of this side of New Year's. So yeah, it's a journey. It's beginning.
What are you most afraid of?
Oh, losing another family member. Yeah. Yeah, that's like the call that Georgia had to make. I had a pretty confronting thought to know that there's 7 of us left and one of us is going to have to be there for all of our funerals at some point, which is not something that you want to think about. That's reality, and I hope it's me, but I'm the oldest, so I also hope it's not. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, death's a reality we're all going to have to face, but I hope the next one would be your dad. Like, it's the correct order of things. It's I can't.
Way down the line. Because it's funny. Like, even though I was young and I lost my mum, there's a level of peace when it's an illness or old age that you can be, they're in a better place now with what people say, and there's some level of truth to that, I think. But with Connor, he's 25 and healthy and looking forward to being a dad for the rest of his life, and excited about what was coming up, and then just gone.
That's cruel. It's unfair. His life was just beginning.
Exactly.
Yeah. What about future goals? Like, where do you see yourself at? 35, 40, 50?
Pay off a mortgage and have 4 or 5 healthy kids. Happily married. Yeah. Is 4 to 5 the magic number now? What sort of car do you need for that? Ford Territory, my wife's told me. I wanted a Toyota, a steamer. Which is
that a people mover?
Yeah, so we family wagon.
Curtains in the back.
That's what we had, yeah. But now my goals for the short term, I haven't thought about too much. The important part after France was just to get home. Regardless of what was happening with rugby, we were going to be aiming to stay in country. And Wellington and Moana have given me the opportunity to do that while still playing the game I love. So that is a goal achieved. I hope I can extend with both of them so that it's set in stone for the next couple of years. But in terms of physical goals, not much. I just want to get to a place of inner peace and happiness and calm, really.
I feel like you're on the right track.
I hope so. And it's going to be up and down, but...
Yeah. Yeah, and with your brother, it's still very fresh.
Yeah, 6 months or 7 months or whatever.
Yeah, how's your... your sister's wedding, how's that going to be?
Oh, that'd be extremely hard. Mia, the next oldest in the line, she got married in Thailand recently, just before in November. So we were all over there for that, and that was awesome. That shit. And that's going to be every event. Because we loved them.
Yeah.
Which
with great love comes great loss. Are there 3 words that your wife or family would use to describe you?
Oh, interesting. Erratic. Loyal.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And loving.
Yeah. It's quite funny. Like, yeah, I've only met you today, but the guy I see in front of me, like, he's way more together than the person that you describe yourself as.
Well, that's who I'm trying to be.
Yeah.
And trying to be consistently. And literally the person that I am now, if someone met who knew me when I was 20 met me today, they wouldn't recognise me, because there's been a lot of change through love, life, and loss, and still on a journey to be the best version of me, but comfortable in the direction I'm going.
Well, I'm 52 and I feel like I'm still on the same journey, and I feel like you can never reach that apex.
Yeah,
like
there would never be an apex, I don't think, because there's always going to be life that gets thrown at you that throws you off course potentially, but...
And every day is an opportunity to do better and be better as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, are you proud of yourself?
I am. Yeah. I know there's a lot of work to be done, but, you know, I've achieved a lot in my career. I've achieved a lot in my life as with my kids and my wife. You know, I've been a pillar for my family in some really hard times. I've got a great relationship with all my siblings. Whenever I meet up with my extended family, great relationship there, and I'm extremely proud of that, because that's all that really matters at the end of the day.
Oh, you're a good bastard. So Super Rugby, Moana Pasifika this year. I looked at the odds online before you came in today. You guys are paying $101 to win.
Good time to jump on.
Is it?
Not the house.
Yeah. Just like a cheeky tenner.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. How are you? I mean, it looks like it's a good team on paper, right?
Yeah, no, it's definitely the strongest squad I think that Moana's put together since they were created 4 years ago. And obviously I can't judge because this has just been my first year, but based on what some of the veterans of the team have said, they say we're head and shoulders ahead of where they were at this time of the year in previous years. So there's a lot of positive optimism around the group. And that's just the rugby side of things. The cultural side and the off-field stuff is awesome. It's such a fun team to be a part of, full of awesome dudes.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah. Well, I think just the Polynesian culture in general is just so welcoming and warm and fun, full of hyena laughs and mocking people and
lots of chows.
So that was never going to be an issue. That's never going to be an issue. That's a given. That's DNA.
Yeah, I've heard you in interviews before refer to yourself as a plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you still feel like a plastic?
Oh, yeah, very much so. But also an open plastic. I'm not trying to steer away from it. You know, this is an awesome opportunity for me to get in touch with a side of my culture that I never was, that I never have been. Yeah,
how would you define plastic?
Oh, I don't even know.
I think you said you're a plastic, but your dad's even more of a plastic. That was the quote.
I'm not sure. Dad always just called himself a plastic. Because he played for Samoa, but couldn't speak the language. Obviously, a lighter skin tone. That haven't ever lived the cultural way that Samoans and Tongans and all Polynesian people do. So, yeah. I've never been asked to define that. I think everyone just knows what it is.
I had Kevin Milam on the podcast, and I got the feeling he's got like almost a sense of guilt and a bit of shame for not knowing how to speak the language. And it's like he was like born and raised in Tokoroa. Like, you know, I was like, you got to give yourself a free pass on that.
Yeah, that's something that TJ Perenara always spoke with his te reo Māori. He was always like ashamed almost that he couldn't speak the language, and that stopped him from learning until he brushed that to the side and just went for it. And it's all right. If you didn't grow up in it, you didn't grow up in it, but it's never too late to embrace it. Yeah.
What would your mum make of the man sitting in front of me today?
Oh, I think she'd be overall pretty happy. She'd be a happy Nanny Sue. Yeah, she'd be super proud of my kids, and she'd love Rosie.
Yeah, and your daughter's got her name as her middle name.
Yeah. Marley Sue. Yeah, so I was lucky she was a girl because she was going to be called Marley after Bob Marley, regardless of whether she was a boy or a girl. But we had different middle names, so when I caught Marley, I thought she was a girl. I could go up and tell Rosie it's Marley Sue to let her know I was a girl.
Fuck, that's cool. You've come close to getting emotional a couple of times here. Are things like this exhausting? Like tonight, or
probably
in the car on the drive home, you feel drained?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Right now, probably a bit of adrenaline from being in the situation that I'm in and iced latte. Yeah. But I have some. I won't put the radio on the way home. I just sit with my thoughts and get ready to do some work when I get home, probably bath time.
Yeah. Yeah. Game face on, eh? The fun begins. All right. Well, Jackson Garden-Bachop, it's been really good to meet you today. I meant to ask you, what's the Milo tattoo? Last question.
Oh, so my son's name's Milo.
Right.
That's a picture of my dad when he was playing.
Wow,
So
that's
I
cool.
I just got my tattoo artist to stitch those together.
Awesome. Oh, I love it.
Yeah. I get so
It's
many.
the same. No, it's just because it's the same logo as the drink.
Yeah,
It's-
Well, the Milo's not named after anything, but that's the only thing that I can think of a reference. And that was a cool way to do it. But the amount of people that on a night out or something was like, man, I love your tattoo. Like, I love the drink as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. All right, Jackson Garden-Bachop, thanks so much. Best of luck this year for Moana Pasifika. And I mean, that's just sport. Beyond that, just best of luck for whatever the future brings. And hopefully for you and your whānau, it's just nothing but good stuff.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.